Alaskan resources, and we're going to go until we're done, and then we are going to let you have a few minutes before the next session. So while we're such a small group, why don't we turn our cameras on for a minute and let everybody know who you are, what your role is, and what district or community you are from.
Sharon, I'll start us off.
Okay, sounds great.
Are thinking about that. So I'm Heather Coulehan with Association of Alaska School Boards. I'm here in Juneau, and I'm really excited to be starting the morning together. So welcome everyone.
And I'm Sharon Fishel. I'm the school counseling and mental health specialist with the Department of Education, also here in Juneau. And Heather and I will be presenting to you today. Suzanne, why don't you go next?
Okay, I'm Suzanne Thomas. I'm not currently employed in Alaska. I actually live in Arizona. I left Alaska 2 years ago. I have a valid teaching license, but I'm trying to find a way to teach maybe health and coach health and wellness. I turned, after I left Alaska as a full-time teacher, I became a national board certified health and wellness coach. And so I hope that I'm trying to appeal to the school district. So it would be a really progressive move, but they could have me on call, or we could kind of plan how students could have access to a computer in a room and Zoom with me if they feel that they want to talk to me. I'm a health and wellness coach, so I'm not encroaching on the counselor scope of practice, because my scope of practice is strictly the coaching. So I'm here to facilitate whatever ideas and resources the student comes up with to promote behavior change.
Okay. How about Vanessa?
Good morning, you guys. I'm Vanessa Salmon. I am the Department of Education and Early Development's new mental health education specialist. So I'll be working closely with Sharon. I'm very excited to be here. I live in Haines. I'm a master level social worker, and I'll be working with rural remote school districts in the state of Alaska.
Lindsay.
Hi, I'm Lindsay. I'm a school-based mental health clinician with Anchorage School District.
Awesome. Which schools?
I'm at Benny Benson.
Ah, my school. That's nice to hear. Nice. Awesome. Deborah?
I'm Deborah Fitzgerald, and I'm here in Fairbanks, and I work with homeschooling families. But I've been in the district for 32 years, so lots of different grades.
Very good. Lori.
Good morning. My name is Lori Vandist, and I reside in Palmer, Alaska. I'm a retired educator from the Mat-Su Borough, and currently I've been back in the schools as an elementary counselor part-time at 2 high needs Title I schools, Big Lake Elementary and Shaw Elementary.
Awesome. Michaela.
Sorry. I am, excuse me, the nurse at Reddington Junior Senior High School in Wasilla.
Awesome. And how about Tanya? You're muted. Don't we always do that?
You know, yeah, and I'm in enough of these every single day. I do. Anyway, Tanya Klukas. I work for Representative Grier Hopkins out of Fairbanks. I live in Fairbanks too. We're down here in Juneau for session, and he's on the education committee formally now that the House is organized. And we're working on social emotional learning related legislation. So trying to stay informed and up to date on what's current and what y'all's needs are. So.
And Patricia, you're still connecting to audio, so I'm going to assume you're not there yet. Nope. All right, we're gonna keep going. So what I want you to do next is in the chat box, I want you to type what strengths you're seeing right now with COVID and maybe what challenges you're seeing. What are some of the strengths you're seeing and what are some of the challenges? And we'll just put that in the chat box.
You mean like challenges in the schools? And
Either in the school or challenges you have doing your job right now. What are some of the challenges and some of the strengths? Could be with you, could be with your students. And also, if you need LPC CEUs, please put that in the chat box. Challenges connecting, absolutely. Well, people are thinking about that. Teach resilience, biggest challenge, homeschoolers who don't get to invite them to activities. There's lots of stories of resilience right now. Welcome, Jenny. I see you just joined.
Good morning.
Good morning. Okay. We will keep going. So this presentation is, Pat Sidmore asked us to put it together. It's all about different resources that are out there right now for trauma engaged schools and things that the department and the Association of Alaska School Boards have put together in the last couple of years. And so the first one that I'm going to talk a little bit about is this book right here. If you do not have this book, Transforming Schools, a Framework for Trauma Engaged Practice in Alaska, please send me an email. I'm going to put my email in the chat box. And tell me how many copies you would like. And I can't talk anymore and type. It just doesn't work anymore.
Sharon, do you want me to put your email? Oh, you already put it.
I just did. That's why I was kind of stumbling because I can't talk and type anymore. If you would like copies of this book, please send me an email and tell me how many and where to send them to. And I think I have a slide that talks about that in a little bit. What we found and why we created the framework was that a lot of districts were wanting to be trauma informed, trauma sensitive, trauma engaged, and districts tended to be recreating the wheel or throwing a lot of money at somebody else to create the wheel for them. And it didn't always work very well for our rural communities. And so we got together with all the partners that you see here, and we created this and released it in 2019. And I have sent out 5,500 copies of this book so far in the state. And like I said, if you want a copy, send me an email with how many. We've got another 3,000, I think, being printed as we speak. And so I'll be able to start sending the rest of those out shortly. So if you want, I can send enough for everybody on your staff if you want, and know that they're available. And so now we're going to do a little poll. And this is the first time I've done a poll, so I'm going to launch it. And our poll is, what is your familiarity with the Transforming Schools framework? And so choose one of our choices here. So we have about heard about and not explored. Someone is just hearing about it now. Good. And let's see, how many do we have? 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so it looks like we've got about 56% that I'll put that back over so everybody can see it. 56% have heard about it, but not explored it. So now is your chance to get a copy and explore it. And have started to use the resources. And so what we're going to talk about next is our Transforming Schools Trauma Engaged Toolkit. So in August, the Association of Alaska School Boards and the department launched the online toolkit to go with the framework. And all of the circles that you see here are chapters of the framework and sections of the toolkit. And we're going to kind of take a little tour to our website right now to kind of show you what that all looks like. And so if you go to, yes, Heather, go ahead.
Can I tag in just one thing? I just wanted to highlight that the toolkit and the framework are really about systems change. The name of the suite of resources is Transforming Schools. And so it really is about working with the adults in the system to create that systems change that's all focused on relationships and resiliency and strength. As Sharon mentioned, it was the department, AASB, partners across the state, First Alaskans Institute, Alaska After School Network, and some of you may have been involved in contributing as part of review teams, as part of contributing resources. So I do think that it's reflective of Alaska because it was created by Alaskans.
Yes, thank you, Heather. So if you go to the department's main page and you scroll down toward the bottom, you'll see Transforming Schools. And if you click on that, it tells you a little bit about the project. If you click on here, you can get a PDF version of the framework. But again, I'm going to have plenty of hard copies to send out hard copies for your staffs. And then also on this page, is where you'll find our e-learning courses, and I'll talk more about them a little bit later. So I'll just go to the toolkit now. And when you pull up the toolkit, you'll see the same choices. If you kind of hover over each one, it'll tell you briefly what that chapter is about. And so I'm going to go to Deconstructing Trauma. That's the first chapter in the framework. And for each of the sections of the toolkit, it'll tell you what the toolkit's about, if there's any type of community adaptations. And then there'll be 5 steps for leadership and 5 steps and strategies for staff. And under each of those steps, there's going to be all different kinds of resources to go with each strategy. And if there's other resources that we found, we'll put them underneath that. We're going to be soon starting to work on checklists or assessments for each of the sections of the toolkit. There'll be an after school, out of school time section that'll be coming up for strategies for that. And then next that will be posted will be the health tab. And that's where for each of the different sections of the toolkit and framework, there's going to be resources for deconstructing trauma that are health related. And we're pretty excited about that. That's something that will probably be up in March. And there'll be a health tab for each section. So each section can look a little bit different. I'm going to go to policy because this is a little bit different than the other ones. Under policy, It'll talk about what leadership can do, what school boards can do, staff, and what students and families can do. And again, it'll have those other 4 tabs. So as you can see, under each one of these sections, there is a lot of different resources that you can use for yourself, or you can use in a PLC and professional learning with staff and others. Any questions about the toolkit? Okay. Yep, go ahead, Heather.
I was just going to say, one thing that right now is that we don't have a way for you to submit resources that you find useful. So we're thinking about how we can do that. So if you have resources that you've been using in your work that you know really work and would like to see in the toolkit, please send them to either myself or Sharon. And we are building up that repository of other resources and figuring out how to get those posted.
Yes, please do that. And so the department also has many online e-learning courses. And if you are an educator, you've had to take some of the mandatory trainings for recertification. Trauma engaged practice is not required for recertification, but we do have all of these courses that you see here: overcoming ACEs, trauma engaged practicing schools, trauma sensitive schools, childhood traumatic grief, and all of these that are listed. And we've had over 3,000 users of these trauma courses in probably the last year. Especially when the pandemic hit, there were a lot of educators that were just looking for different things. And we found that our trauma courses were the ones that were being the most hit as far as being taken. If you haven't taken any, I would recommend that you take the self-care course. It's about 40 minutes long and it can be very helpful. If you're looking for something to do with students, I would recommend the hands-on activities, these 4 courses that are over here on the right. All of them are what we call our micro courses. They're 20 to 30 minutes long, and they all will give you a PDF of different activities that you can take and do with students or staff, whether it's you're in person or whether you're virtual. They're all different types of activities that you can do. And I'm going to go to the next slide to kind of show you that. This is from our self-regulation module. The self-regulation module is 21 minutes long. And as you can see, it has all these different pages of the PDF that give you different breathing exercises, different stretching exercises, and just things that you can use, like I said, whether you're in person or virtual. What some elementary folks have done is, because they're in these nice little strips, they've cut them out into strips. And if they're in person and they have a calming corner or something like that, that they can actually have them laminate them and put them in the corner for kids to use. Or I've heard PE teachers cutting them into strips and laminating and then having, passing them out and having students lead the different stretching activities in PE or breathing exercises and those types of things. So know that those courses are available, and like all of our online courses, they're free to anybody in the state, which is really cool. We are currently working on a stress and anxiety course that we're hoping to be live probably in April. And we're also currently working on an e-cigarettes vaping course that will definitely be live by early summer and definitely by the start of next school year. So those are some projects that we're working on currently that will be launched in the next 6 months.
Sharon, to access the courses, it requires signing up and creating an account. So if you haven't done
Yes.
that yet, please do, because there's such a wealth of resources available. So just take those steps to sign up and create the account.
And to get to them, again, you can go back to the department's main page, and right next to the Transforming Schools, there is our e-learning page. And if you don't already have an e-learning account, you can go right here to request a new account, and then you can go in and view any of the courses. There's lots of child nutrition, all the health and safety, the opioids, Narcan. These are all the courses that are required for to renew or get a certification, all of the special education courses, the suicide awareness courses, and again, the trauma engaged courses. So they're all right here. Any questions, comments before we move forward? Hearing none, I'm just going to keep going. And then we also have an e-learning classroom. And that's something that was started with some suicide prevention lessons. I worked with a team of about 5 school counselors from the Matsu School District to develop lessons for teachers to use with students for suicide prevention. And we're calling those our Navigating Transitions, Promoting Wellness to Prevent Suicide in grades 5 through 12. So there's one lesson for each grade, 5 through 12. And you can see, you know, Anchors Away is 5th grade. We have a nautical theme for these courses, which is really cool. And when the state developed curriculum for the Alaska Safe Children's Act, I think is getting ready to be launched soon, they will also be housed in the e-learning classroom, and any other courses in the future that we might create that are for teachers to deliver to students. Students can't access this themselves. It has to be a teacher that accesses and does the lessons with them. Heather, this one's yours.
Thanks. I'm writing down the e-learning classroom and the suicide prevention lessons because I'm embarrassed to admit I always forget that one. So I like writing my little sticky note down here to make sure that I'm remembering that one. Well, so the slide we're on right now is about Association of Alaska School Boards resources. And, you know, it's an interesting thing. So we are a small nonprofit, and it turns out that every state has a school board association. And our overall mission is to support school board members in their own professional learning. I mean, who knew that school board needed professional learning too? And way back in like early 2000s, here in Alaska, we started looking at resiliency and protective factors. And we knew that if we supported community engagement, family engagement, youth leadership, school climate, we knew that that would bring positive impacts for students. And so we started working with school boards and around that. And we're one of the only school board associations in the country that does that. There are a few other ones that took their lead from us in Alaska. So yay, all of us, that our work together really has lifted that work up nationally with school board associations. So I just wanted to let you know like why we're involved in partnering with DEED. So on our page, our website, and Sharon, might you click on the link there, which will bring up AASB's website there. It's like the big reveal. And then if you go to the top bar and click on services there, yeah, and maybe bring up school climate, if you could click on school climate, thanks. We at Association of Alaska School Boards, some of you may take the School Climate and Connectedness Survey. And we are the folks that work with the American Institute for Research, and they helped us develop that. And so districts across the state, I think right now we have 31 districts that are taking the School Climate and Connectedness Survey, fondly called SCCS. And it really helps guide data, looking at data around caring relationships, around trauma-engaged schools. There are now questions on the SCCS about trauma-engaged schools. And so Sharon's really scrolling through the information, both the content and the resources that we have on our website. We also have a page that is dedicated to trauma-engaged services. And so if Sharon clicks on that, you'll see some content linking back to the framework. And then you can also find the toolkit on our website too. And we have it located in both places because we know that school boards often, their entry point into this work is on our website. So we wanted to have it in both places so that there was more likelihood that people could find it, whatever entry point they were coming in. We've got a great page on youth leadership. So check out our page for services around that, youth engagement. So when you have some time, dive into our website too and look around, because you might find some resources to support your administrators that are new to you. So check out our website as well. I'll add one more thing. Sorry, I always have one more thing. My mother always teased me about this, always having one more thing just about when we're ready to close down. So one thing that I think at AASB really is the cornerstone of our work is that community coordination and dialogues. So really supporting schools in working with community in a true partnership. And I think that we don't have this one built out quite yet, but hosting community conversations where people can come together like person to person, heart to heart, and talk about those things that are so important to community, to school, and then together move from challenges to solutions. So I just wanted to highlight that, which is a little embarrassing that we don't have those resources up yet. Sorry about that. But we are a resource for you along with First Alaskans Institute on structuring conversations like that, where there's that real listening to understand each other and using that as the way forward to transform schools. So just wanted to highlight that aspect of AASB's work. Thanks. And that's me too, isn't it? So we had this great fall webinar series. We called it the Toolkit Tuesday webinar series. And maybe some of you had the opportunity to participate in some of those. And so it was 12 weeks, and each Tuesday we had a webinar on one of the sections of the toolkit. We highlighted resources, we had partners and districts come on and talk about their work. We did a lot of work in breakout rooms, so people had a chance to chat with each other across the state. And so one thing that we are looking at how to do is to have those webinars posted. So stay tuned for that. That's one piece we are still working on so that you'll have access to those webinars. And one of the things that came out of the Tuesday Toolkit series was that ask of how can we keep the conversation going, like in an interactive kind of way. So AASB, DEED, we've partnered with the Alaska Staff Development Network. They host a learning platform that's called ACPlan. And on this slide, you can see the graphic for ACPlan, which is associated with the teaching channel. It's actually really cool. It's like this Alaska teaching channel kind of piece. And so we have it's called the SEL Trauma Engaged Learning Community. And right now it has 4 modules. So you as an individual or you as a school team can join and work through those modules. Right now there is a module on deconstructing trauma that does have the webinar from the Tuesday Toolkit. It's got discussion questions, reflection questions. It's got resources posted. There's a case study there for you to talk about or to reflect on. And there's an interactive discussion forum. So there's a module on deconstructing trauma, self-care, family partnerships, and relationship building. And our vision is to have a module on each of the components from the toolkit. So sorry, there's a lot of stay tuned in this, but that really does demonstrate that this is ongoing. It's a work, it's alive. And so we're building as requests come in and as we hear from folks. So that is a good thing. I will say that there are some hoops to join this learning community. That's like the one downside. And so I'll pull into the chat the instructions for how to join this learning community. It involves registering in the teaching channel and then sending an email to the Alaska Staff Development Network. So once those 2 hoops, then you're in and you can join the conversation. So I'll pull in a PDF describing how to get in right now.
And as Heather mentioned, we had our Toolkit Tuesdays. I am currently getting those all closed captions so we can post them on the department site and share them with AASB. Also, they have them, but they'll be on our website hopefully soon, at least by March sometime, I hope. They're all like an hour and 15 minutes and there's 12 of them. So it's taking a little while to get them all closed captioned. But those will be available for everybody to listen to if you missed the series this fall. So now I have some national resources that we're just going to talk about briefly before we end today. And one of them is the from the National Child Traumatic Stress Network, Child Trauma Toolkit for Educators. That's on their site. There's some national resources that came out when the pandemic hit, trauma-informed school strategies during COVID, that also came from the Child Traumatic Stress Network, and school entry reconsidering supporting student social emotional learning and mental and behavioral health amidst COVID. I know that US DOE is having a webinar today about the new CDC guidelines. And I believe there's going to be a second part of that guideline coming out in the near future that is focused on mental health and COVID relief. These are also other resources that are out there for people to use. And I'm just making you aware of those. And so we are going to kind of end with some questions and answers. So if people want to turn on their cameras and maybe ask any questions that you have, if there's any resource that you are familiar with that you'd like to share with the group, now's the time to do it.
I have a question.
Yes.
Sharon, obviously, I got your email for the conference. So am I on your list now to get, for example, updates when you publish the new segments in March and April? You know, the stress and anxiety health, the health section for the toolkit.
Are you, that will probably go out on the info exchange for the department, but.
Okay, I think I'm on that.
It'll probably go out on the health listserv also. Pat Sidmore, if you get emails from him,
Yes.
Out on the school, it'll go out on the school health
cool.
listserv as
Thank
well
you very much.
counselor listserv when they're live.
Great.
And Heather's put a PDF of the slides that have links to all the resources in the chat box. Any other questions? Comments? You guys are awfully quiet. Are you still there? I know Suzanne's there and Vanessa's there. Anybody else still there?
This has been really helpful. I mean, I didn't know there were this many resources now. I mean, when I was teaching, we had Linda Chamberlain come to the school and talk to us. And so now it's really much easier to be able to access this on your own. And like you say, you know, you don't have to spend all the money that goes away because teachers have to be pulled in for further learning. Thank you very much for this.
You bet. There's been a lot of activity and a lot that has gone into this the last probably 4 years, Heather. What do you think? Yeah. Anything else?
I just typed into the chat that ASDN has a number of Linda Chamberlain's webinars archived on their website. So check out their website and look at the recorded webinars. They also have recorded webinars from Ricky Robertson, who has been doing a lot of work in Alaska around resilience, educator resilience and student resilience. He led a series of webinars right at the beginning of the pandemic. So great resource on ASDN's archived webinar pages.
Yeah, and I just found out this weekend that our framework actually got its first citation in an article published by some researchers in Columbia. So yay, yay for Alaska. That was pretty exciting to hear. But if you don't have any more questions, we are going to let you take a little 20-minute break before the next sections start. Because it's going to be a long morning for everybody, especially Heather and I. We're presenting, or I'm presenting until noon anyway. But if you have any questions, you can reach out to Heather or myself, and we'll be happy to get you whatever you need. And again, if you want some copies of the framework, shoot me an email. And as soon as we get our next shipment in, I'm going to be going in and boxing up a bunch more and sending them out. So have a great, fabulous morning and enjoy the rest of the School Health and Wellness Institute.
Thanks, everyone.